public hearing scheduled 6:45 will proceed. Oh, what? Yeah. I was waiting for her to get down. Sit down. Call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
What, have we
Roll,
made a
roll call.
roll call? Okay. Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Present.
Mr. Rue? Mr. Copeland?
Here. The public hearing is called to order. Clerk will proceed.
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for 2.535 acres located at 2251 Hillside from RS5 Low Density Single Family Residential District to RS8 OPDH Medium Density Single Family Residence District Planned Development Housing Overlay District was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on September 22nd, 2022.
I move that the communication be ordered, received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Hearing will proceed.
Good evening, everyone. The applicant was proposing a residential development with a total of 30 dwelling units at a former school site. The proposed development will be market rate town home style single family homes. At the planning board meeting, many surrounding property owners opposed the development, citing high density, insufficient infrastructure and utilities to support the development. After the planning board meeting, the developer reconsidered having 30 units on site and provided staff with revised plans showing 24 units, thereby amending the request. The site is surrounded by residential RS5 low density uses on all sides. The Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area as traditional neighborhood low intensity. The proposed zoning intends to increase the density of subject parcel for the proposed development. The proposed residential development aligns with the future character area as the development is compatible with surrounding neighborhood. Since the proposal is townhome style housing, a housing overlay is recommended by staff to provide the flexibility in design and placement of units. The modifications of requirements of underlying zoning district do not intend to harm surrounding property owners, are permitted within the planned development housing overlay district. The requirements of an overlay are that the planned developments shall be provided with open space for recreational purposes and to enhance the general character of area. The building permit plan in the future will include landscaping and show parking plan for remainder of site that does not show dwelling unit. The site also has public alleyways that run across the parcel as shown on slide, which will need to be vacated for the project to be in compliance with zoning code. Return reports from city staff stated no objection and have recommended approval. Based on the above analysis and staff comments, the staff has recommended approval to rezone from RS5 to RS8 OPDH zoning district. There is a note from staff. After receiving approvals from the City Commission, if the applicant makes substantial changes within the approved plan, such as increasing number of units, change in orientation of buildings, change in use of land, or opting for a subdivision, they would have to reapply and amend the approved overlay plan. The request was recommended denial by Planning Board unanimously, and the applicant is here for any further questions. Thank you.
You touch base again and tell me why the planning board, what their big objection was?
They agreed with the surrounding owners who were present at the meeting, and the surrounding owners were opposing due to the density of the development, and they found that the surrounding infrastructure was incapable of handling the residential development, such as roads and water and sewer.
Was that unanimous that they agreed with that?
Yes,
Okay.
So, as I understand it, the staff is recommending approval
yes,
and the planning board recommended not approve.
yes.
I
Yes.
thought we tabled that. I'm sorry, Dr. E. I thought during that meeting that I was at the planning board meeting, I thought the discussion was tabled,
No,
not
it,
that they,
it was denied.
okay.
You told us there's been a change in the plan. The original was for how many units? They was requesting, the applicant?
That was 30 units.
30?
Yes,
And what was the amended plan?
24.
24.
And those amendments were made after the planning meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
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 So the planning board has not looked at the 24-unit
No.
plan?
no,
No.
Okay. So the plan they rejected, denied, was the 30.
30 unit one.
Okay. Procedurally, does this need to go back through the planning board as a revised document? Or does it come straight to the commission? Matt, I don't know.
refer to our law.
So the difference was 30 units went down 20,
24.
24? It's an amendment to it, and planning board has not had the chance to review that, but I was not there. I don't have those minutes to know what they examined to consider the difference between, if it was just the total amount. It sounds like there are other concerns as well, but it is a different application.
And we empowered to table this and refer it back to the planning.
Or we can entertain it, I would think, on the original request of 30 units that the applicant originally asked for, and approve or disapprove it. And then if he wants to go back for 24, since you're going to send him back there anyway, I think the 30 units I think it was a reasonable request. And I think that the neighbors, because it was a school site and was surrounded by streets, they're visualizing an abundance of traffic. There hasn't been any development in that end of Springfield, Ohio in 45 years. And, it's going to be new development, single family, it's market rate. Rather than send him back to the planning board, I would just as soon try to approve his 30 that he asked for to begin with before we send him back there and delay the project another
Right.
2.5 months.
Well, I guess my question is, what did the staff approve, the 30 or the 20?
I believe staff recommended approval even on the 30. Is that correct,
Right.
Wadehi?
Yes,
Yes, they did.
Oh, would it be legal for us to discuss and open and entertain accepting the 24? Because to me, in my mind, if we were already approved for 30, the problem with the surrounding homeowners was that there were too many units, too much traffic, too many people coming into that small community, right? And congesting the utility services and the traffic and the streets and all those things. We've reduced it by 6 units. And so I tend to feel like that we've compromised. And so now to me, 24 seems like something we can deal with. The developers have given to meet some of the needs and the demands of the housing, the surrounding neighborhood. We've heard you. It went from 30 down to 24. That's 6 units reduced. So, I feel as if we are trying here, and I would hate to send everybody back, not just the developers, but also the surrounding homeowners. I wouldn't want to waste anyone's time.
Plan is officially on the table,
or the 24 units.
the 24 unit is officially before us.
Yes, it was amended from 30.
Okay. That makes it pretty
That's
easy.
fine. I just don't want him to have to go back to the planning
Well,
board.
if everybody's agreed on the 24, and that's what's on the table before us, You know, put it on its first reading and let's go. Is what I'm suggesting. Since it is the 24 that's on the table, I assume, as Commissioner Phillips is saying, apparently a compromise among all the parties has been reached.
I don't know if I would say been reached, but it has been attempted.
Okay.
Okay, so if I understand from all this conversation, we are now saying that this hearing is about 24 units. Okay, that's agreeable with all the commissioners? Okay. So now we can have a hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak in favor of this motion? And then opponents will be next.
Yes, my name's Clay Chester, Premier Property Rentals, and I am the developer on this project. And with it going from 30 units down to the 24, I thought that was a 20% compromise. And we did work, obviously we would like to see as many units in that area as possible. And we came down 20%, which to the 24 units I felt was a good compromise. And we'd love your guys' approval to add housing. We're a local developer too. We hire local contractors, we buy local materials, and we'd love this to be our next project. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the commission? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, opponents now. Name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Jessica Schaefer. I live at 511 North Claremont Avenue, directly across from this lot. I've heard Clay speak, and I really do commend him for wanting to bring housing in our community. We desperately need that. It's not anything that I'm opposed to, but even 24 units on this lot is excessive. And I'm not trying to cut anybody out underneath. You say 6 less is a compromise. That is not a compromise. I'm sorry, that's 6 less vehicles. That's not truly a compromise in this neighborhood, and here's why. It's just not feasible. I don't think anybody here has problems with developing this lot, right? But we need to not increase existing problems in our neighborhood. And that's really what it is. We have problems with roads. We have problems with access. We have problems with egress. It would not be an issue except for the fact that it is 24 units on a 2.5 acre lot. If you do the density on that, our current neighborhood density is about 7. On this lot alone, even at 24, you are looking at a density of 10 if there's one person in each of those units. If you go up to 2 people in each of those units, that's a 19 density. And if you go up to 3, that is a 24 density for a 2.5 acre lot. Like, that is completely unfeasible considering our neighborhood right now stands at about 7. That is ridiculously increasing the density of our neighborhood. Not only that, but it's a minimum of 24 cars coming in and out, right? Our roads are narrow. They're often impassable. If school buses or trucks come down our roads, they are impassable. I have videos from my dash cam where you literally have to back blocks up to get places when large vehicles come into our neighborhood. So you increase 24 units into that. If you did 14 or even 18 lots, that would make sense. You could have off-street parking. It would reduce that. That would be a compromise. Because realistically, even with that lot in the middle, what do we do with overflow? What do we do with visitors? What do we do with everything else that comes with 24 to 30 units on a 2.5 acre lot? It's not that lot, as great as I think the idea of it is, it doesn't actually address the issue. It really doesn't. And in our own city ordinances, chapter 1108, there are certain provisions when you are increasing to this type of population density, and those are designed, constructed, operated, and maintained as to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance, which it sounds like they're going to do, which I'm fine with. But here's the big one. Will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or officially planned future neighborhood uses from the standpoint of noise, lights, congestion, or traffic generation, which would be incompatible with the neighborhood environment. The other one of that one is will have vehicular approaches which will not be so designed as to not create and interfere with traffic on surrounding public thoroughfare. You cannot put that many cars into a lot in the middle and not interfere with traffic. You can't do it. I mean, realistically, yes, we need housing. I will never deny that. I came back to Springfield because I love this community. I want to see it do well. I love the things that are happening, but this isn't it. It's not.
Could you please wrap up?
Yeah, it's not comparable to other sites that are being built, right? There are other sites being built. There's nowhere else where anybody is putting a 24-unit apartment townhouse complex in the middle of a neighborhood that doesn't abut a 3 or 4 lane major public road. It's not in the middle of a neighborhood. Not only that, but again, there's no access. The McGuffey site is on McCrite. The site's at the old community hospital.
We have your point, but we do have a limited amount of time. Anything else you want to say to wrap up?
For you guys to assume that a compromise of 6 less buildings is actually a compromise is kind of a slap in the face of those of us who live in that neighborhood and have lived in that neighborhood for decades. I mean, it really is.
Okay.
Can I just say that I also live in that neighborhood, and I'm a homeowner in that neighborhood, and I live there, and so do my parents as well. And when I said a compromise, I said an attempted compromise. I don't want you to walk away feeling like that I just flippantly used that. I said he attempted to. So I just wanted to make
appreciate
sure.
that clarification.
Thank you, no problem. Thank you.
Can I ask the developer a question? Can I ask a question, the developer?
Sure.
How many buildings are you actually building that are going to accommodate these 24 units? 6 4-unit buildings. So you're not building 24 individual buildings. Okay, that's what you let me believe. Okay, just want to make sure.
Any other questions from commissioners? Is there a motion to adjourn the hearing? I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
My name's Rod Rarely. I live at 3369 Rockview Drive. I own a property, excuse me, at 508 Bel Air. Hang on. Mr. Chester, how many, did these buildings get less units, but did they get bigger, more square foot, more bedrooms? So there's going to be bigger yard. Because from this drawing, it's hard to see. It looks like you have the buildings, parking spaces, and no place for kids to play. But from that
I'm sorry,
drawing,
you
I
folks need
can't.
to speak in the microphone. There's other people in the room who might like to know what you're talking about.
You couldn't hear me or play.
Well, when you're going back and forth, it's pretty hard.
Okay. What I was asking about is if he changed the number of bedrooms, there were going to be 2 and 3 bedroom units. If he's going to stay with the 2 and 3 bedroom units, it sounds like he is. But from this drawing, you can't, I mean, I'm assuming there's going to be kids in here. This isn't like elderly or. Okay, so we're still in a neighborhood of 50 to 60 people that could be in these units.
Clay, if I could ask you to maybe grab the other mic, or either if you guys can stand there and exchange so that everybody could hear. Either way. Thank you.
You have other, wait a second. Do you have other questions?
Just that I can't really make out what's going to happen.
Oh, I got that question.
30 units out.
We eliminated 6 units off of the prior.
Speak into the
site plan.
microphone, please.
We eliminated 6 units off of the prior proposed site plan. I believe it was, and you can see the difference. the spacing between the buildings got larger. Quite a bit larger. Can you go back to that one prior? So even the parking lot got wider. I mean, we don't have green space in the middle, but also there will be green space in the middle of this park.
Green space or playground?
I mean, I don't know if it'll necessarily
I mean, is
be
it
a
something
playground.
shrubs and
It'll
some
be more of a
trees?
play area than the middle of every other block in that area. I guarantee
Well, every
that.
other block has a yard.
Well, yeah, right.
And what they did on McBride, I really love that. I would like to see something more like that. Single-family homes, people that own them, owner-occupied. I think last time it was about half of the Metro Boulevard, right? And half of them were sold and half of them are rentals. These would all be rentals. And then these are similar to the like Red Coach area. And if you go down Red Coach, they all have parking in the rear for their cars. But if you go down Red Coach, that road's lined with parking on the street. So I do agree with some of the congestion. I would rather see, this was originally 14 lots on the plot plan, which doesn't show up when you put it up there. So we're going from 14 to 24. So from the original plot plan on the auditor's website, this was laid out for 14 building lots.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak to this matter? Is there a motion? Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that when we use language like homeowners versus rental, that we're not easing into things that could be conceived as classism or racism or anything. I'm not saying that you're any of those things, sir. I'm saying that as a general piece, when we get into conversations about home owning versus renters, it definitely kind of raises some hairs on the back of my neck a little bit. I just want to make sure that as we continue to work together and we continue to have these conversations, just making sure that we in general do, because what does that mean when you say a renter versus a homeowner, So I know that I was told when I first moved to that neighborhood that I wasn't even a homeowner. She's just a renter. And I was also referred to by my neighbor as a savage. And so we can only imagine. So, as I got to I just want to make sure that when we use that language and I have this spot to be able to say that we are being very clear that we're not getting into those dark, ugly parts of our history as a country, right? And I'm not, sir, know that I'm not saying that you fit in those descriptions at all. I understand the difference. If a homeowner wants to own, they're going to keep their property nicer. They're going to put more into it. But sometimes those things could be looked at as dog whistling. And I'm not saying that you're doing that. I just want to make sure that moving forward, that anything that you might say is not lost on someone that may hear it and devalue what you're offering us. Okay? That's all. Thank you for listening. I'm not judging you at all, sir. I just want to move forward with that. Thank you.
I have one more question of the developer. Our staff is fine. The egress and regress, I'm assuming currently this particular parcel, I wish you'd put it back up where it was, is bordered by 3 streets. Is that correct? There's not a street behind, right?
No, there's an
Okay,
alley.
so where is the egress and regress going to be in and out of this property?
It's from this area here, North Claremont and Bellevue. The developer is proposing
That's
it
not
on.
where your egress and regress is going to be, is it?
The
Isn't it gonna egress and regress onto the main street out there in front?
the developer can explain it much better than.
No, it's going to go, there's going to be an in and out. It's going to be a horseshoe. That's the south side of the property will be the entrance and exit for the property. That will then be a horseshoe with hillside, with the properties facing hillside will park on that south side there.
So
Where that alley is?
Correct.
Okay, so really, you're not putting any traffic onto the 3 streets. You're going to use the alley, and then they're going to go left or right out of there onto the other 2 streets.
That's
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
From the alley.
Okay.
Posting in and out of the alley with a 40-foot wall behind.
I'm
not
just
through the
asking a
alley.
question, ma'am. It's
Wait,
not
Wait,
showing
wait,
up there.
wait, please.
I'm just asking the developer, trying to get
No,
a better
I'm
picture.
I'm saying where they're saying the alleyway is going to
Mhm.
be the entrance and the exit from the property on
Okay.
the east and west side.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to this matter?
I want to correct you because you say that it's not going to come out onto the road. That is directly across from my driveway. Like that exit is directly across from my driveway. Those roads are not wide enough. Like it's not the alley. They're going to be entrancing and exiting onto Claremont and Hillside or and Bellevue, Bel Air. It's not an alleyway.
They described it as an alleyway. I didn't. I just repeated it.
Anything,
Thank you.
anybody else want to speak to this matter?
Michael Fenners, I live at 502 Bel Air. I'd be on the other side of her, and my driveway would be directly across from where theirs would be. And I grew up in this neighborhood. I actually went to the school that used to be on that lot, grade school. I've lived on that street 38 years. I do not want an apartment complex across the street from me, townhouses, single homes that blend in with the rest of the neighborhood. That's fine. I'd be glad to welcome some new neighbors. But I don't want rental property, people coming and going, moving in and out all the time. The crime in that area is getting bad as it is. You know, we don't know who's going to be coming and going, and what's going to be happening. I would not be happy any longer. I'd probably have to move after all this time living there. That would be a shame. I love the neighborhood.
I would like to suggest that the city staff continue to work with the developer and the neighbors to move closer to a solution. Having said that, I would move we adjourn this hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Phillips? Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Hearing number 2 is called to order. The,
If you would provide your name to Steph, Bobby, or who?
Steve or Wadehi, could you, we'll have one of our staff members meet you out there and just get your contact information.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
No, we
No.
don't.
We do
vote.
not vote on first
we
readings.
don't
vote on
vote
first.
on first hearings until a later meeting.
So
Because almost always something comes up and you can deal with it between then and the time we vote, okay?
That's exactly why I suggested staff work with you to find solutions.
So next
Okay.
steps would be, is everyone clear on next steps from their perspective? Neighborhood folks, are you guys clear on your next steps?
Someone will be contacting us.
And you're gonna leave, yeah.
So if someone doesn't contact us, who do I bring that up with? Because I was told at the zoning hearing that you guys weren't obligated to inform me that you were having this hearing tonight. Thankfully, I got a letter. But I was told that it's not your guys' responsibility. It's my responsibility to sit on your website and know when these kind of things are happening.
I don't know who told you that, but we let the neighbors know when there's going to be a hearing.
And that is why you received a letter.
And that's what, and I said, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's why I
That's
said
the
if I.
I just want you to understand, that's the notification process.
Okay.
And that's what's required by law.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
In the news-
It will also be in the newspaper, guys.
So are prepared to move. Hearing number 2 is called to order. Hearing from the, call from the previous one will cover this one also. Staff report.
We need to got killed.
I'll read the notification. Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for 0.167 acres located at 355 Ridge Road from RS5 Low Density Single Family Residence District to A Agriculture District was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on September 22nd, 2022.
I move that the communication be ordered, received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Moving second, clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes,
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Now, staff.
there you go.
So a bit of a background to this request. The City Code Enforcement Division had received a citizen complaint about ducks being in the backyard of the subject parcel. Per zoning code, if a change in use of land can be approved by requesting a rezoning, a variance cannot be requested from Board of Zoning Appeals from such sections of the code. Therefore, the applicant is requesting to rezone the subject parcel to an agriculture district to keep farm animals, that is ducks, on property as emotional support animals. There are currently 3 ducks on the parcel. The parcel in this area were platted for low-density single-family residential use, and the structure on site or the subject parcel has been a single-family residential dwelling unit since the 1920s. The property was purchased by the owner and applicant as a single-family residence in 2021. The Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area as traditional neighborhood low intensity. The proposed rezoning to an agriculture district brings in nonconformities to the parcel as relating to the yard regulations and city's zoning ordinance sections pertaining to having animals on properties within city of Springfield. The proposed rezoning would be in direct violation of Chapter 1135 that states that all livestock or non-carnivorous animals shall only be kept on parcels 3 acres or more. It further states that structures for small animals shall not be less than 100 feet from every property abutting property line in an residential district. Also, the proposed agriculture use is not compatible with surroundings as it is not harmonious with surrounding single-family residential use and further increases its nonconformity with general vicinity. There are residential areas surrounding the parcel to which the proposed rezoning will cause undue hardship as the duck coop, run, or pen in the backyard is closer than 100 feet from neighboring property line and the subject parcel is also less than 3 acres in area. Return reports from city staff. City manager's office has recommended denial. Concerns from neighbors initially opened the code enforcement case. Agriculture district not harmonious with surrounding RS5 or residential density. City Fire Department is recommending denial. It is against the ordinances to have farm animals in the city, and the understanding is the case opened due to a complaint. City Code Enforcement Division has recommended denial, stating that it has an active zoning case at this location. Orders were issued on July this year. Even if zoned to a city agriculture district, the property must comply with the yard and area regulations. In addition, structures for fowl or small animals shall not be less than 100 feet from every property line in the residential district. The City Planning and Zoning Division has recommended denial. That commenting that requesting for a change in zoning will be considered spot zoning and is not recommended. The city staff has recommended denial for the request to rezone from RS8 to Agriculture Zoning District. The request was recommended approval 3-2 by Planning Board. There was a letter of opposition and a letter of support received by staff prior to the Planning Board meeting and is provided to Ms. Jill Pierce for further review. Thank you.
Can I ask where, there's more than one Ridge Road in Springfield. Where's this at?
355 Ridge Road.
I know, is it up in the, what end of town? On the one on Lime, North Limestone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Just
have
want to
a,
make sure where we're at.
I have a question for legal. Is there any standing in federal or state law relative to a claim that the animals we're talking about here, ducks and whatever, providing emotional support? Is there any standing in law for that claim?
As far as for rezoning, not zoning, there's a designation that's different for therapy animals, companion animals, but zoning is something different, and you can't take zoning law.
So the claim that the zoning has to be changed because of the need for and protection of emotional support doesn't hold water in this case.
Concern with that would be spot zoning would be first, because that's not harmonious with the neighborhood. You don't have agricultural anywhere in the vicinity. But additionally, that becomes permanent to that parcel.
Right.
And it goes on in perpetuity until there's zoning amendment some point in
Right.
time later on, or a comprehensive change for our.
And as I understand what was said, I want to make sure I'm understanding it. By zoning this agricultural, it allows any animal that isn't considered lethal somewhat. So potentially this person could have not only duck, but sheep or goat or other such animals. Am I understanding this correctly?
Right. It's not this is not any kind of a variance. This is zoning. Either you have approval to do what's authorized in that particular agricultural zone, or you don't. And agriculture would be livestock, horse, chickens. That's why we have separate, but the whole concept of zoning was to, so there'd be harmonious living in different districts.
So as opposed to a variant where we can restrict it and have some control over it, we're opening the door for anything this person wants to raise on that parcel of property if we were to approve.
Can I interject really quickly? She's already stated that she would not do that. She would sign something, but I just whispered to Jill, and it's still about the zoning. So she has already stated, I will sign whatever needs to be signed. I'll do whatever, but it still goes back to the zoning because I want to be able to figure out a way that she can keep these ducks, right? It seems very unreasonable that she can't keep these ducks that she has from her child's school science project, right? But the thing is it's the way Jill just described it, it can't.
And the difficulty with the variance is that has to be, one of those variances be authorized by our code. And there is no variance.
Is there any other way besides a zoning change that we would be able to keep these, she would be able to keep her ducks?
For agricultural. For
Okay.
livestock,
Okay.
unfortunately,
So
there's no such.
there are no, I mean, I don't want to open up the barn door in this case.
Right.
And say that it's okay to have farm animals, because I think others may want to try to do the same thing, and I just don't think we can open that door.
Always be a very difficult position when you're looking at a legislative action to fix something in our whole zoning code. There's going to always be a area where people want livestock to be a companion animal, and they have that connection, and we understand that, but we also look what's the best use.
So if she were to want to put livestock here, she'd have to buy some additional property amounting to, 3 acres in our code, as I recall.
I believe that's what the day he was reading
I
from.
think 3
zoning code.
acres.
Yes, it should be
So-
3 acres.
That's about the only solution I see. unless we want to open the door.
There was a problem up there several years ago with the chicken coop on the corner of Ridge Road and Roosevelt Place, and they were forced to take it out. And it was fine until the new neighbor bought the house next door. And then it had to go.
That all commissioners have to say? Does someone in the audience want to speak to this matter?
I'm Samantha Hayden, 355 Ridge Road. I'm the owner of the duck. They are registered federally as emotional support animals. To the concerns of turning it into a farm, they're emotional support animals. They're not wild ducks. I don't have a flock of ducks. I have 3 ducks. They weigh less than 5 pounds each. They're smaller than most dogs. They are less messy than most dogs. They're less susceptible to diseases than the wild cats running around the neighborhood. There is no reason, honestly, I don't think there's any reason that this should be taking up the time of a commission hearing when there are other things that are more important, but the last guy with community development. I was told I couldn't do a variance. He told me I had to file for rezoning. It was the only way to get my duck. So then I filed for the rezoning. I got a 3-2 yes vote from the planning board and was told to come to the city commission. Now, there are a few things I do have, like I said, that there was a letter submitted in opposal and a letter submitted in approval. I have other letters that I tried to submit from my all immediate surrounding neighbors, minus the one who filed. Every other property touched my property in approval of the duck. They love the duck. I have them all here. I can read them to you. I can submit them to you however. But they are not the ducks are not an issue. They're not a nuisance. They stay in the yard. I've relocated all of their things, their pen, their pool, which is actually going up for the winter, away from the property line. The person who complained, their property line literally overlaps mine by less than 6. Their complaint about runoff is not humanly possible due to physics and gravity because my backyard goes uphill to their yard. So nothing in my yard can run off into their yard unless it defies gravity. So that is a non-issue. I know that they're complaining about their garden. They're so worried about my ducks, but not about the cats that's not there. Couple of things about ducks is that they aren't like chickens. They're not loud. They don't smell. They don't tear up the yard. They can't fly, so they're not going to be jumping into other yards. They are very good at controlling pests. My neighbors already commented that there were less mosquitoes in our yard than there were last. They're less susceptible to parasites, ticks, fleas, things like that. They don't get any of those. They're not mating. I'm not mating ducks, not raising ducks, not getting incubated, trying to hatch new ducks. I have 3 emotional support ducks. I have 3 different diagnoses, one for each. You have my prescription letter there in front of you. I had to sit with them for 2 hours just to get here tonight and do this yet again. I have more neighbors in favor of the ducks than I do not. They love the ducks. Again, like I said, I have letters. I'll have to submit those to you in any form you wish. But I was told originally to get a variant. Just a variant to keep my ducks. They're in the yard. They're no bigger than a chihuahua. They're no bigger than a cat. They don't take up any space. They're no bigger than a doghouse. Actually, it's smaller than your average doghouse. So as far as getting a variance, they said I couldn't have a variance. I would have to apply for rezoning, is what I was told by Ms. Wahab. I always talk your name, I apologize.
That's okay.
But I was told by her that I needed to rezone in order to get my duck. So I paid $300. I filed. I got approval by the planning. And I don't see why if the planning board approved it and my neighbors approved it, and there's no risk, they don't pose a threat to the neighborhood, my neighbors. Again, like I said, the neighbor behind me is worried about runoff. That, again, physically and gravitationally impossible because my property is downhill from there.
Okay.
I don't have nothing else unless you guys have.
Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this matter?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn the hearing. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips? Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. We have one more hearing.
Yes.
Clerk will read it.
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for, I think I've got a typo. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 3.17 acres located at the corner of South Yellow Spring Street and West Liberty Street from M1 General Manufacturing District to CC2 Community Commercial District. Was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on September 22, 2020.
I move that the communication be ordered, received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
The subject parcel is proposed for a paintball activity center by the applicant. The applicant had received a conditional use permit from the Board of Zoning Appeals in year 2000 for an automobile-oriented use, a car dealership, which is a permitted conditional use stated under the current zoning district, M1. Sorry. The site was an old industrial site and does not require environmental assessments as it was approved by the Ohio and US EPA. The proposed use is considered as a commercial recreational use as defined by zoning code and stated within the staff report. The proposed zoning, City CC2, intends to bring a commercial use to the parcel, which is less intensive use of land than the existing M1 manufacturing use. Per the Engaged Neighborhood Plan, year 2020, the parcel had been identified as a part of South Yellow Spring Street corridor revitalization, and the proposed zoning change would make it compatible with surrounding residential and business areas. The Connect Clark County Comprehensive Plan identifies future character area as industrial. However, the proposed rezoning would not be considered as a intense use of land and will enhance the surrounding neighborhood's character in the future. While community commercial uses are usually characterized by indoor operations, certain permitted uses may have limited outdoor activities. So depending on the design of the activity center, both indoor or semi-outdoor recreational activity would be permitted. Return reports from city staff state no objection and recommend approval. There is a note from staff. After receiving approvals from the City Commission, the applicant will have to apply for a conditional use permit from the Board of Zoning Appeals, as paintball activity is considered a commercial recreational use listed under conditional uses of CC2 zoning district. Thank you.
Are there
Are there any objections before or after any of the meetings?
There were no objections received.
Thank you.
there others in the audience who want to speak to this matter?
Adjourn the hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the hearing. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
I think I was supposed to give a proclamation, but it appears Mrs. Butler had to leave. So, Jill, should we postpone this, or what you're thinking?
And the proclamation was also going to be presented by Mayor Copeland at their event, so
Would you like me to read it into the record, Mayor, so you,
Or I don't care. Whatever you,
I'll read it into the record and then give it to you to give to Mrs. Butler. This is a proclamation on behalf of the City of Springfield from Mayor Warren Copeland. Whereas the Greater Springfield Association of Fundraising Professionals was founded in 2017, and their mission is to empower individuals and organizations to practice ethical fundraising through professional education, networking, research, and advocacy. And whereas the National Association of Fundraising is committed to the principles of inclusion, diversity, equity, and access in the fundraising profession, the philanthropic sector, and throughout all society. And whereas National Philanthropy Day is celebrated annually on November 15th of each year across the U.S., and whereas the local Greater Springfield Association of Fundraising Professionals is celebrating National Philanthropic Day on Wednesday, November 9th, 2022, with a special gathering to recognize the charitable work of individuals and businesses with special awards. Now, therefore, I, Warren R. Copeland, Mayor of the City of Springfield and President of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim November 9th, 2022 is National Philanthropic Celebration Day in Springfield and urge our citizens to celebrate the charitable work done to make a difference and create an impact in our. And we do sincerely appreciate all the many people who give to support various enterprises in this community for the betterment of our community.
okay? Okay, I think we're ready to have the city. We were waiting for you, Rob.
Yes, thank you.
So now we can start. Okay. The city commission, the meeting of the city commission come to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Here,
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr.
Present.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here, please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our God, help us to make decisions good for the people of Springfield, complicated as they might be. Help us to serve the community in the best ways we can. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion to approve the minutes. Of
so
last-
moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Clerk will proceed with first readings by title only.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 2.535 acres at 2251 Hillside Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, from RS5 Low Density Single Family Residence District to RS8 OPD8 Medium Density Single Family Residence District Planned Development Housing Overlay District. Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 0.167 acres at 355 Ridge Road, Springfield, Ohio, from RS5 Low Density Single Family Residential District to A Agriculture District. Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 3.17 acres at the corner of South Yellow Spring Street and West Liberty Street, Springfield, Ohio, from M1 General Manufacturing District to CC2 Community Commercial District. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Architecture LLC for the design of 3 new fire stations for an amount not to exceed $878,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Marker Incorporated, doing business as Marker Construction, for the construction of a new fire station to be located on South Limestone Street for an amount not to exceed $487,732. Confirming and approving the acceptance of a donation from Kitty Hawk Corporation of an H-2 eVTOL aircraft with an approximate value of $120,000. Amending the city's micro-enterprise loan program to update the program description, requirements, interest rates, maximum loan allowance, and language surrounding minority and female business enterprise. Authorizing the release of easements in relation to the property located at Prime Parkway and commonly known as the Prime Ohio 2 Industrial Park.
Any questions or comments from commissioners on first reading?
I want to know if, in fact, the city manager will be flying the donation from Kitty Hawk Corporation, that new aircraft.
No, commissioners, I will not. This is not an operational aircraft at this point. It is more for display in the new NOMSI building, but it does not have the components necessary to fly it, which I'm sure the company prefers.
Yeah, well, that makes me feel more comfortable too, so thank you.
I have a question on one of the first readings, 26822. Since that's been a first reading, will the group that was here tonight be notified in 2 weeks? Well, we kind of told her that she'd be notified, and I just don't want anybody to have a
Yeah,
misunderstanding.
the staff will work to address at least getting a plan and the developer
Okay.
and stuff together.
I agree.
Now, again, we can make them aware when they're contacted to meet with the developer that it comes for a vote in 2 weeks, and
I just want
just
to
note that our next meeting is thrown off because of Election Day as well, and so it is a Monday night.
Dear God.
Well,
So,
again, I know what she walked out of here thinking, that we were going to notify.
but we will make every attempt to notify based off of contact information that
And
we received.
Mr. Heck, I do have her contact information.
Great.
And Jill Allen is going to give it to you.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else from commissioners? Clerk will proceed to second readings.
Amending ordinance number 9190, passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing section 185.17 entitled longevity payment and repealing section 185.18 entitled longevity administration rules.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Consenting to the repair of bridge erosion issues on State Route 41, structure file number 1201654 within the city of Springfield by the Ohio Department of Transportation, identified by PID number 110155, providing for the maintenance of the right-of-way and authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Director of Transportation of the state of Ohio necessary to complete the project.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Consenting to the removal and replacement of Type A anchor guardrail assemblies at various locations within the city of Springfield by the Ohio Department of Transportation, PID number 113767, providing for the maintenance of the right-of-way and authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Director of Transportation of the state of Ohio necessary to complete the project.
So moved.
Second. Seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming purchases and the obtaining of services for the city and providing for payment therefor, and declaring it an emergency therein.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
providing for supplemental appropriations within various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
So
Move.
moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
amending ordinance number 2214 to revise the transfer of monies authorized and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
confirming and approving the acceptance of a grant with Jobs Ohio in the amount of $2,900,000 for the construction of the National Advanced Air Mobility Center of Excellence at the Springfield-Beckley Municipal Airport, authorizing the city manager, director of finance, and law director to perform all acts and execute all documents considered necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grant and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements and declaring an emergency therein.
So
Move
moved.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I was wondering if we happen to have any pictures of this that we could share tonight. I know we have some upstairs, but I should have called and alerted you, but
Probably not immediately here, but we can certainly bring some to do an update soon to commission, and we can also put some stuff out on our website, springfieldohio.gov, of progress, one, showing what the building's going to look like, the renderings, but then also the progress.
that'd
And
be
we're
great.
working, I think, on a time-lapse camera as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. And the time-lapse cameras are great. I've used them before on several projects. They're just a great idea. So thank you. Yeah, that would be, because it's a cool building.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the partial forgiveness of a deferred loan through the Lead Safe program and release of the city's mortgage with William R. Stout and Deborah R. Stout on the property located at 526, 528, and 528.5 South Fountain Avenue, and declaring an emergency therein.
So
To
moved.
adopt. Second.
Seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
adopting a second substantial amendment to the 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan and 2020 Action Plan of the City of Springfield, Ohio, as submitted to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to allow for flexibility in funding of eligible projects to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the direct and indirect effects of the current COVID-19 pandemic and to mitigate future risks. Authorizing the city manager, finance director, community development director, and law director to perform all acts and execute all documents necessary to implement such second substantial amendment to the 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan and 2020 Action Plan of the City of Springfield, Ohio, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Was wondering if we might ask staff to give us a brief overview of what this modification consists of.
Yes, Commissioner, we can certainly ask for that.
So the answer is a lot shorter than the ordinance Joe had to read. Back in 2020, when CDBG CV funds were distributed to localities, we had to incorporate them into an action plan. In 2020, there also was a water hose of various sources that came to the community. So some of the original work that was put into that action plan ended up being funded by other sources for the health department specifically, and then also some of our displaced housing needs specifically. So now we are working to close out the CDBG CV funding, still sticking true to the preparation of other pandemic or infectious situations that we may incur. And we are amending the plan to allow us to invest funds in partnership with NTPRD at some of our public parks, in some of our low and moderate income census tracts, as well as partnering with our city school district to enhance school-based health clinic.
Very good. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Espraw?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Drug Enforcement Administration to reimburse expenditures for officers involved in joint operations for the period of October 1, 2022 through September 30, 2026. Authorizing the city manager, finance director, law director, and chief of police to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said agreement and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements, confirming and approving services provided under said agreement from October 1, 2022 to the passage of this ordinance and declaring an emergency therein.
I'll move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I was wondering if again we could ask staff to give us more information about.
Yes, commissioners, I'll actually ask Captain Elliott if she would like to provide a description of what this program is.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you. And Mayor Copeland, thank you. Again, I'm Allison Elliott. I'm captain with the Springfield Police Division. So what this would allow for with our task force officers and our narcotics investigators while they're working in conjunction with the DEA, it would allow for reimbursement by the DEA for any overtime hours worked so the city would not incur that cost.
Good.
And that those resources also, it allows for us to have more resources provided through the DEA for safer operations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving the acceptance of the 2022 Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program Award to provide funding in the amount of $33,408 to purchase various safety technology equipment and declaring an emergency therein.
I'll move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Again, Captain, I'm wondering if you can give us a little more specific information about what kind of equipment we're looking at.
I noticed you didn't move away.
Yeah, smart
Just wanted to
move.
be prepared. Thank you. Yes, so Commissioner, so we are, it would allow us to purchase computer software and technologically advanced software to assist with our investigations and enhance our investigations.
Very good. Sounds like great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill? Ms.
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 2 to the contract between the city and Gray Bar Electric Company Incorporated for the City Hall Lighting Upgrades Project to extend the project completion date to June 16, 2022 pursuant to the Omnia Partners Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 2 and declaring an emergency therein.
I'll move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Is this part of an energy reduction program, improved lighting? What are we doing?
It provided for enhanced efficient lighting systems within City Hall. That project's been completed, as you see, with the new completion date of June 16th. This is just
Catching up?
so that we can finalize and make final payment to the contractor and close out the project itself.
Glad to see this on the agenda because one of our goals is obviously trying to save energy. This was an active part of it.
Yeah, and it's a testament to our facilities division as they continue to look for opportunities to improve the efficiency of our existing infrastructure.
Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 6 to the contract between the city and Structural Systems Repair Group, LLC, for the water treatment plant concrete repairs and wastewater treatment plant secondary clarifiers and effluent diversion concrete repair to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $9,845.20 for a total amount not to exceed $3,848,200.37, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 6 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 7 to the contract between the City and Structural Systems Repair Group LLC for the water treatment plant concrete repairs and wastewater treatment plant secondary clarifiers and effluent diversion concrete repair to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $49,754.25 for a total amount not to exceed $3,897,954.62, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 7 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Copeland?
Yes.
And the next item was added to the agenda, reappointing Samina Ahmed to the Human Relations Board and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Other items to come before us from commissioners?
Mayor Copeland, members of the committee, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to announce that, as we noted before, federal judge, I believe it's Judge Newman, has in fact signed a consent decree which will allow work to move forward on solving the Tremont City barrel fill problem that has haunted this community for 40 years. I'm also pleased to announce that the U.S. EPA, and this is pretty unprecedented, has decided that they want to come to Springfield and talk and meet with us. Earlier, I sent information to the commissioners, but that date of November 17th had to be changed because there's more people involved. So after talking with Brian and with working with US EPA, we will be having, as part of our commission work session on the November 22nd meeting at 6:15 p.m., we will be hosting a Zoom meeting with EPA Region 5 in Chicago. At that meeting, they will outline what's in the consent decree relative to getting rid of the barrel fill or most of it, protecting our water. They will outline next steps, which is the design phase, and then we'll look at the actual work itself and identify some broad timelines. So again, and by the way, this is one of the few times, this is sort of a first for US EPA. So we're very pleased with this because they initiated this. They said, we want to come and work better with you. And if you've heard me, you know, well, that's a welcome sign. So again, it's November 22nd, 6:15, here in the Forum. They'll be on the big screens out of Chicago, and they will be talking about and answering questions that we may have. Now, in December, we are getting the technical experts and our staff together to talk with the EPA, and that's when some of the real work will start happening. But we thought it was important that the US EPA celebrate with us the signing of the consent decree and talk about what happens now as we begin to look at how are we going to solve the problem of the Tremont City barrel fill and our water supply. So thank you very much.
How many years is it?
I'm told over 40 at this, by the way, at the work session, that will include people from Safe Water who have been at this a long time, 40 years. And Health Commissioner Charles Patterson, and Charlie said he'd been at it 22 years. So
Gosh, that's
this
just
is
10 years younger than
this
me.
is nothing new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie had hair
Thought
when
I
this started.
remembered it was 40 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else from commissioners?
I sure will. The next regular city commission meeting will be on Monday, November the 7th at 7 p.m. due to Election Day. I updated my calendars. I suggest you all do the same.
Anyone else? Well, I just want to comment, I suspect there'll be another occasion to say more, but we're losing Logan.
Yes.
We have appreciated everything you've done for us, and we will miss you.
It's been great, Logan.
We have one more meeting. I was not going to even think about it until then. Very flat affect.
Anybody else? Their motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll. You got to
Mr.
vote
O'Neill.
before you leave.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrad,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.